Yeah, it's not good. Hello and welcome to Little Learners. Well, it's happening. The Reception Baseline trial is underway and there are over 9,000 schools taking part. 200 of them have already pulled out. Now, okay, let's go back a little bit. I made a video a little while ago about the fact that the baseline was coming back, some of my thoughts about that, some of my experiences about the last baseline that happened in, I think, 2015. That was also a trial and it did not go well. So, of course, this new proposed baseline has been met with a lot of controversy, partly because of what happened last time, partly because schools, teachers, educators, practitioners don't feel that the government has taken into account the opinions of teachers, that they haven't done enough valid research, so they haven't been working in collaboration with practicing teachers. It can also be very difficult to implement a baseline when it doesn't really fit in with the way that reception is run. I'll get into how the baseline works in just a moment. TES published an article yesterday about how almost 200 schools had already dropped out of the trial. Now, the baseline has only kind of just started. Most schools are only in the first few days of it at the moment. Of those who have started already, and I have spoken to many a teacher from across the country in my research for this video, yeah, it's not good. Teachers have complained that the system that they have to use does not work properly. It keeps crashing. It takes a really long time to record everything that they have to record. It's taking a lot of the teachers' time out of the classroom. One of the most concerning things to me is that many teachers feel that the current baseline test being trialled doesn't really match up to the EYFS. Now, for those of you who aren't aware, the EYFS is the statutory framework that we use in reception. So it's kind of like the national curriculum for reception. The idea that this baseline and the EYFS don't match up very well and that this baseline test doesn't seem to be informed by the EYFS very well is very concerning to me and to a lot of teachers, because then you kind of sit and think, why are we doing this then? What is the point? What were the government thinking? Who came up with this idea? Why do we have this framework that we work so closely with and that really underpins all of our early years practice, yet it's not being used to inform this baseline? When lots of teachers and lots of schools, lots of head teachers are not happy with the baseline and they are all of the same opinion that this is not beneficial for them or the students, it becomes a real issue. Now, I do just want to say here that some of the schools that have dropped out of the trial decided to drop out even before they got the materials. They changed their mind and didn't want to be part of the trial. Some of them have dropped out since getting the materials. So you may be wondering, if there was so much controversy about this, why so many schools decided to go ahead and be part of the baseline trial this year. Of course, there will be schools that feel that the baseline may be a really good idea. I personally haven't come across any teachers who are happy with it at the moment, but I am sure that they are out there. A lot of schools decided to be part of this trial because they wanted to be in the know. So they wanted to see what the government is proposing, because if it gets through the trial stage and the government decides, yes, this is all good, we're going to go ahead with it, then all schools will be having to do it. So lots of schools wanted to be involved in the trial so that they have a voice and so that they can be more informed. Now, there is a video published by the DfE, the Department for Education, all about this baseline, and it's aimed at parents. It makes me laugh. In the video, it kind of talks about how the children will be assessed in their first so many weeks of school, and it will be through practical tasks. The children shouldn't know they're being assessed. And it states that it should take about 20 minutes per child. The teacher can stop and give children breaks if they need them. Now, first of all, most of the children at the beginning of reception are not able to sit and attend for 20 minutes unless it's something that they are very interested in. Now, of course, there are children of that age that can sit and attend for 20 minutes, even if they're finding the activity quite boring. So there is absolutely no way that it is only going to take 20 consecutive minutes to assess each child using this baseline. Also, schools are having to do their own baseline tests alongside this, the ones that they do anyway. There are a couple of reasons that schools still need to do this. One, it's a trial, so just like the last one, if the trial doesn't go well, then the government will throw it out and that's it. So the school will still need to have their own assessments. Second is that with this baseline, the schools will not be given any kind of quantitative data. So they will not be given a score for each child, they won't be given a level. That is purely for the government. When the children reach year 6, the school will then be given the scores so that they can measure progress from reception to the end of year 6. However, during that time, that doesn't help the school at all because they are given nothing to go off of. What the baseline is giving is a narrative of how the child did during the assessment based on the information the teacher inputs into the system. Now, these are all trained teachers, so they already know how the children have done during the assessment, so I really don't know how this is supposed to help them. This is one of the big reasons that many schools have dropped out of this trial. I've seen so many head teachers on Twitter infuriated by the fact that the school will not get any scores or levels. So of course that means that the baseline does not help the school. The baseline certainly doesn't help the children because in the first few weeks, first half term of school, you are trying to settle them into school life. For many children, this is their first time being in compulsory education, their first time being at school or at an early years setting all day, so full time rather than going home at lunch or coming in after lunch. It's a huge change for them. They're meeting all of these new people, their parents aren't there, their friends from nursery might not be there. It is a huge adjustment. And early years teachers and teaching assistants and the school in general work very, very hard to help settle children into new routines and school life. So then putting in this baseline is not helpful for the children. Now, of course, I did mention earlier that schools do their own baselines anyway, but these are implemented into the school day. They are planned around the children and their interests, and teachers can kind of pick and choose when they are going to do them. Basically, schools think very, very carefully about how they're going to do their own baselines and make sure that it runs seamlessly with how they are going to introduce children to settling into school. So it's not good for the children, it doesn't seem to be good for the schools. So what is it for? The baseline is purely to measure school progress from the beginning of reception to the end of Key Stage 2 in Year 6. The Department for Education has been quite clear about that. That is what it is for. It is to measure school progress. Now, measuring progress is very important. One of the reasons for that is because for a long time, lots of league tables and statistics that parents get to see about schools are based on levels at the end of a certain year group. So for example, at the end of Key Stage 2, the SATs results. If a school is in a more disadvantaged area, or for some reason one year has a lot of children who start at a very low level when they first enter school, because that just happens, law of averages, that's going to happen every now and again. If those children then get to the end of Year 2 and get a really good grade for that child, they've made loads of progress because they started very low. So to get kind of an average grade or level at the end of Year 2 is amazing for them. That amount of progress and the work the school has put in isn't really identified in just the levels at the end of Year 2. It just looks like the school got average levels or maybe even below average levels. But for those children, those levels were incredible because they've made so much progress. Likewise, if you have a school that has a cohort of children that come in and they are all very, very high achieving already, obviously not all of them, the majority are very, very high, higher than the school normally sees. When they get to the end of Year 2, they may get really excellent grades, and that's wonderful, and of course they've made progress. They may not have made the same amount of progress as a child who started lower and got an average grade at the end of year 2. So I hope that makes sense as to why it is important to monitor progress to really get an idea of what a school can do. However, so far from what I've seen, from what other teachers have said, from what I experienced on the last baseline, these tests are not the most effective way of measuring pupil progress. It may be for the government, because they don't have to really be involved in doing it, but for the school and for the children, it doesn't benefit them at all. So we really need to find a way that we can measure pupil progress, but it doesn't interfere with children's education, as well as their emotional well-being, of course. Now, as I said, it's very early days for this trial, and we may get to the end of it and find that most schools decided it was a really good idea. I will do an updated video once we get more information and find out what's going to happen next. I highly doubt that the feedback will be overwhelmingly positive, but I'm very happy to be proven wrong. The other thing about the DfE video that makes me laugh, there is footage of children playing outside, having a lovely time, and I just keep thinking, well, that's not what the baseline is going to look like, is it? So, what do you think? Are you in a school that is trialling the baseline at the moment? Do you like it? Let me know in the comments below if you do. If you are a practitioner who is doing it but doesn't like it, let me know. Let me know if you're part of a school that's dropped out, if you'd like to. And of course, if you're not a teacher, please do also let me know what your opinion on this is. I would be really interested to know how parents are feeling about this, and just, general members of the public who are interested in the education of our young children. If you enjoyed this video, or at least found it interesting, please do give it a like, as it really helps out the channel. Don't forget, you can always subscribe to join the Little Learners family. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.